Put that in the car.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Did you consider having a bat? Daddy didn't have that trait.
You must have got that from Mummy's side. Yes, Plumber's huge show. Now, we put it on Moff to just keep upping the ante with the guests. So I said I want a warrior of a player, an educated, articulate commentator, and I said throw in one of my childhood heroes. And he said, I can match you. I can raise you. I can bring you Dermott Brereton, and he's here. G'day, Derm. Hello, kid.
Lutsy, how are you? Good to see you, boys.
Mate, very good. The boys are, they're in, I'm in awe. I grew up watching the 23 and reading your books and watching you smash bloke. So I always see it as a privilege to work with you in the media.
Yep.
These lads, it's before their time, but you do have an aura and they're a little bit toey. So the big boys are here. We've got a lot of questions. They've done research. They've been watching 60-minute specials of you done in 1992. Okay, so,
VHS.
Christ.
right off
Is it in sepia?
it's on tape. They were shocked. Okay, we've come a long
It's
way.
on tape.
On tape.
Put it this way, it's been a big 30 years in football. The way it's covered now and the things we can do and say. But geez, it look
60
like
minutes?
Look like you had some good fun back then. Mate, right off the top, because we've all got a heap of stories for you.
Yeah.
Done many podcasts? This bit new for you?
Been a guest on probably 3, maybe 4. I try not to do too many.
Very good.
Because then if somebody's got a podcast who you like, you've already spoken all your podcasting stuff. So sort of keep a bit up your sleeve, and just give it to people go and speak to people you like. Plus, if you said yes to all of them, it'd be like a radio gig. You'd have to turn up once a week, every week to somewhere. So I knocked back quite a few.
Only pick the big ones.
That's
Yeah.
Big award-winning shows.
I only pick the big dogs.
the big boys who push the envelope a bit. I want to start in the present, right? And these boys know you as the commentator, working for Fox, SEN, been in the media probably since your playing days are over.
Yep.
You love it, don't you? I've never seen you whinge about your career after footy. Never seen you flat behind a microphone. You just always have a smile. You're always up for it.
Well, I'm really good at it. No, look, it's a privilege. It's a privilege. I mean, yes, it can be really hard work, if you're turning up and you're looking at a shit game and, you don't really want to be there and that. But it's an absolute privilege to be still working in AFL footy. The first time I walked into the Hawthorn Footy Club was 14 in a scholarship squad. At 15, I was playing under-19s and it sort of kept rolling along from there. So and that was 1980. So to still be floating along in this industry, I'm bloody privileged.
And modern game, modern footy. I mean, I
It's
know
different.
we'll tell a few war stories about what you got away with and what you did on the field. But you don't hark back all the time and say it was better in my day. You love
totally
commentating.
Different. Yeah.
These boys doing their thing and the modern tactics of the game, which have changed a lot.
Yeah, they have changed a lot. So 70s and 80s. So I didn't see the 60s. I was only born in the mid 60s. So the 1970s and 80s were fairly similar football. Skill level increased, size of the players didn't. But early 70s, the guys who I trust their word, like my ex-coach Alan Jeans, he said the early 70s was the most brutal time of playing footy. So 80s I thought was pretty brutal, but he said, no, the early 70s were just, it was like, well, it was like playing against Essendon in the 80s would have been a throwback to the 1970s. Thereafter in the 80s, and it's a little bit of a fallacy of how much we didn't train, and how much we might have just turned up. Yeah, we partied hard and whatever, but shit, we trained. Yeah. So, like, the comparative things were, so tan track, you boys have done the tan?
Yeah, many
What
times.
do you do it in?
Oh, horrifically. Yeah, it'll be like 12 probably. Yeah.
That's quick.
Is
That's
three,
motoring.
No, 3-8. You're not doing 12.
No.
That's your best minute.
Have you done it?
I've never done
No,
it.
you're
Well,
right.
they don't run that
Yeah.
far anymore, Derm.
No,
I would say these boys
we
have
do
been
recovery at the 10, yeah.
Okay, so it's
13
free.
and a half, 14 they'd be. 14
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we do at 2K as our times right now.
Yeah, so what do you do your 3K in?
No, we do 2. So mine's
Oh, shit.
7. Yeah, about 7, 650.
7. Okay, so 7 on that pace.
Yeah.
To do the tan is 3.85.
Yeah.
Yep. So to do 2
Like
Ks.
15 then.
Yeah. So we would just say that's the basic one we use. I would do it in 1350.
Yeah, it's
And at the same time, and at the end of my career, when the technology came in, I did a 20 metre, and I wasn't quick then, 2.88.
Yeah, wow.
So, and then at the same time, free weights. You guys do reps of free weights, don't you? Like, so your max lift for 3 reps, is it?
Yeah.
So we would do 1 max rep. So mine was 155.
On the
bench.
Well, the Curtis coverage.
Yeah. Piggy Dunster was like 165. So that's the comparative time. So strengths, paces, and endurance. And people say, oh, you blokes didn't train hard. Shit, we trained hard. No. You can't get like that unless you train hard. What happened, and now for me as a key forward, and even in my own day, I was a short key forward. I would run around 14 Ks a game.
Yeah.
And so being around the 6'2" mark, I'd have to, just take it everywhere, run pretty well within the pattern, within the field, just all that hard running. We had blokes, your size key position player, Charlie, but they just couldn't get the ball as a key position, and they would use them as a resting ruckman who'd go into the ruck occasionally. And then along came the coaches who started flooding, and suddenly you get 14, 15, 16 players in a back line on a slow play. Well, what chance is the bloke? What chance is the bloke who's 6'1.5" out marking 14 defenders? So that's where the coaches started to say our key forward needs to be 196, 198, and now they're 200. So yeah.
Given that, then, how do you think you'd go in today's climate?
Love it. I'd be a third string forward. And, I'd do a little bit of time in the midfield and be a third string forward, and you'd get a matchup. Someone like me would get a matchup against somebody who probably wouldn't be capable in the air, which was my strength.
Give us a player.
Yeah.
One that...
No one will compare, but give us one.
Give us a prototype, a play that obviously you've got the aggression as well, but a player of the current day that you could play like. Is it that role? Good overhead, going in the midfield.
Dangerfield, but I'd kick better. But Patrick,
on power, you're probably right, aren't you?
But Patrick would find the ball more in the midfield than I could.
You'd be a pinch hitter in the mid.
Yeah.
You love
absolutely.
watching Danger. I watched
He's
your
good
call
fun.
on Saturday night.
He's good fun.
And you detected he was about to hit his head. You go, he's going to clang into someone here. And about 5 minutes later, you had the Joel Selwood and the stitches.
Yeah, so that sort of situation. So, So what happened with those 6'2"-ish key forwards, key backmen, who had to be could only be that size because of how much they run and the agility required, they had to find a new home. And suddenly they started interchanging dramatic. We only got interchanged if we were in the bad books. Get out, come off you come. So suddenly those midfielders who were around the 6'2", 3", and even now 4 mark, they now can play midfield. And if they get tired like they would have in the old days, they come to the bench and have a break. I mean, Dane Swan is an enormous player and a champion. He would still be awesome right now. He would have been whacked around the ears in our era because you'd just run him off his legs. Rob Harvey didn't change off the ball for 3 years.
Yeah.
And he's just, you'd actually go into a match and plan, all right, Schwabby, you've got Peter Schwab, you have Rob Harvey until he runs you into the ground somewhere through the third quarter, and then we'll put on Peter Russo. Peter, you're ready to take her. You'd actually schedule blokes to run against some of these guys. They were just so good endurance-wise. Yeah. So Swanee, for a midfielder, his long-term endurance wouldn't have been good back then.
He's got the power.
Perfect. Yeah, great call. He got the power, explosive power. You play him in this current era, he's awesome, on and off the ground. Yeah.
And he's Billy's lad. He wouldn't have minded if it got rough and tough too.
No, I don't think Swanee was against
that once or twice.
And not on the field.
No, that's right. The little clip I sent the boys to school up on, I know Japes has got one for you, he's itching. Now, it was an early clip on 60 Minutes about Dermott Brereton. Right, because you were, of all the players, now we're talking about Brand Petrarca now, and there's players making a quid out of Instagram.
Yeah, but we didn't say it like
no,
that.
You did it, but you were, well, I know there were others before you. Yeah, Peter McKenna did a little bit and stuff like that, but you were the first rock star footballer. Is that fair? Because you had a fair bit going on. Harleys, TV shows, banana ads, bananas.
Bananas are good enough for me. Okay, so here's an absolute gospel truth.
Yep.
So, Charlie, what colour boots you wear?
I'm in blue at the moment.
Freaky blue.
Yeah.
Nice. Paying him,
Quick blue.
Yeah, you like.
I'm white at the moment.
You're white. Yeah. Yes, you wear white quite a bit, haven't you? We had, up until the late 70s, it was black boots, Adidas, Puma, or some of the other lesser brands, but they were black leather with white stripings. And then a few wags, Phil Carman, my idol, he just wore a pair of umpire boots. He wore white boots, and people just thought he was a lair. Yep. And then some guys at Hawthorn wore, like late 70s, like Peter Knights and Don Scott and that, they wore yellow boots with brown stripes on, but they were pretty plain.
Clubby shoe.
Yeah. I think St Kilda had, you could see some boots back in the day, black with the Adidas stripes, one red in the middle and two white ones on the outside. So they were slightly club colours. And I was playing with the late great, there was four of us who used to play golf on a Friday. Trevor Barker, the late great Trevor Barker, Eddie McGuire.
Hello.
And the late great Shirley Strawn. You guys wouldn't know who Shirley Strawn is.
He was a rock star.
Yeah, he was a rock star. He was the lead singer of a group called Skyhooks. Have you heard of them?
Oh, yeah, living in the 70s.
Oh, well,
I've got the
vinyl.
He's got the vinyl.
Yeah, we would play golf every Friday at the old Elstonwick course. And I put down a ball, and it was a fluoro green ball. And Barker said, "Oh, you bloody lair, look at you." And I said, "Mate, it's a golf ball." And he said, "Next thing you know, you'll be playing in boots that colour." And I went, "Oh, yeah, that's not a bad idea, Trev." Anyway, so I rang the great Teddy Whitten. He was at Adidas. I don't know what he did at Adidas, but he was just Mr. Adidas. Anything Adidas.
Relations.
He could have, yeah. They gave him a job to be Ted Whitten. So what's my job description? I don't know. You just be Ted. And so, right, okay. And he used to play it up. He had the big, you would have heard about Ted Whitten. The two greatest players, they say, are Lee Matthews and Ted Whitten. And I'd throw Wayne Carey in there as well. They're the three greatest. I didn't see Ted play, but I clearly saw Lee. And Ted was so powerful. "G'day, mate, how are you?" And he'd shake your hand, and you could see him steel himself up to really squeeze hard, And then he'd hand you, said, "You're right for gear, you're right for gear." And I go, "Yeah, I'm all right." And he'd grab, have I had one of these? And he'd grab that off there, and you could see him going, he's going, "Oh, shit, I've busted the hanger," while he's handing it to you. "Oh, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely, a showman, yeah. And I said, "Ted, got something for you. Can I get a pair of fluoro boots?" And he went, "Oh, Jesus, what are you thinking?" And Adidas used to have a personalised shoemaker, what do you call it, a cobbler, tailor, who his premises was out in Ferntree Gully. So he said, come in and I'll take you out there. So I went in and we went out there and he said, all right. So this little old Italian gent, I put my foot on the paper and he traced around it. So handmade boots. And he's then brought out the leather and he's got some tame-ish ones and that. And over in another bin, I've gone, what's that stuff? And he's gone, oh, you want? And I went, yeah, look at that. It was the brightest fluoro green you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, good.
And he made a pair of boots. And anyway, Alan Jeans just looked at me, who was like an old, he just couldn't handle anything. Like this old copper. Yeah, morally sound, but just, straight, short back and sides with Yabby. There's his nickname, Yabby. And he's looked at me once, and when I first put him on, and he's gone, you better get a bloody kick in those things, son. And anyway, so that was, and Ted would tell you, and people at Adidas, that was the first time in any professional sport in the world that somebody had worn fluoro shoes, boots. So they were mine.
Imagine if you did the Jordan.
Yeah.
Took the 5% per pair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For everybody else.
Yeah.
I tell you how what it went. So I won't tell you what the exact figures were. So all of Hawthorn was like your club. What's your club?
We're Puma now.
You're Puma.
Puma as well.
Puma as well. We were Puma. And Puma had a great long-standing arrangement with Hawthorn. And our CEO, John Lawrence, lovely man, fantastic fellow. And he was always saying, Derm, we've got to get you wearing Puma. And Puma were always like, oh, we'll get him because, he's part of the club and whatever. And he came in and he said, I need you to come in. We're going to chat to you about going to Puma. And I said, all right. I said, well, I've got a contract with Adidas. And he said, all right, bring your contract in. We'll sort through it, whatever. And the club used to get X amount of money. And each player got $1,500 worth of gear. Thereafter, they could buy gear at a certain price, like half cost or whatever it was, unlimited. And he said, look, that came in and he said, look, I've spoken to Puma and they are willing to give you 3 times that amount, $4,500 worth of gear for free. And I said, okay. And I handed him my contract that I'd already signed with Adidas. I said, that's what I'm getting from Adidas. And it was $20,000 more than the club was getting. So I was getting paid more, just me to wear Adidas, than 49 players were to wear. And this is not a bum team. This is a premiership team. And he just rolled his eyes back, and you could see him can't compete with that.
No.
Yeah, and that was it. So that was like the sign of the times, where that marketing yourself. So I thought of that. Well, Trevor Barker thought of it actually, conceptualised it, and said, "Let's go ahead and make these." Yeah.
Any blowback from your teammates?
No.
They just, as long as you got a kick.
As long as you play well.
Well, once again, little things came along like that. I don't know, you boys would have seen, but 1988, we played Melbourne, and we're going to win. It was just by how much? I think we won by 93 points or something.
This is a
like
grand
that.
final.
Grand final.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So I was fairly confident going into that one. And Tip Top. I was the Tip Top footballer. And
Good on you, Mum.
Tip Top's the one.
Good on you, Mum.
Yeah, my old man used to say, can't you get me an ad with Tip Top? And I said, Dad, good on your mum, Tip Top. That's how it's rolling. And he said, and he was Irish, and he says, how about good on your dad? It's not so bad. Tip Top.
Stop our stings.
Anyway, so Tip Top came to me and said, you going to win? And I said, oh, yeah. And they said, we want you to do something. I said, yeah, okay, all right, I'll listen to you. And they said, we'll pay you. This is back in the days, 88. So I reckon the average wage of a footballer in 88 would have been 25,000,
Yeah, I was going to say 40, maybe less, 30.
Yeah, for the average player. They said, we've got 25,000. I remember it was what I thought would have been the average wage for a footballer. We've got 25,000 if you allow us to run out while you've got the cup taking it around the ground, throw some loaves of bread in there.
Amazing.
And I went, yeah, I'm on board with that. I'll have a crack at that. And I'm going to have to clear it with the club, though. And anyway, spoke to the club, and the club's like, oh, that's sacrilege. And I said, go your halves. And they went, all right, we'll have Fred waiting down there and he's going to run the bread out. So we did our presentation. We got 3/4 of the way around, and down near the punt road end goals, it was actually our club accountant, Freddie Kurzman. He ran out with a bag and half a dozen loaves of bread, and we stuffed them in there, and we're taking photos with tip-top bread in the cup, and some of my teammates going, oh, I'm not doing that. And I said, mate, and I donate my 12,500. I said straight into the players' fund.
How good.
Yeah. So they've gone, we're not. And I go, it's 12,500 players' fund. I go, yeah, give us a lot. They were all on board. So all those sorts of deals came along, and it sort of was like the start of real commercialisation of where you were at in terms of standing and the like.
Tradie beer ads.
Yes, well done. I saw that. Where'd they film that? On some rocky-faced river or something?
Yeah,
was
up in Townsville, yeah.
Oh, it was Townsville.
That was good fun.
Yeah. Looked nice and looked hot, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that beer like?
It's good. It's delicious.
Oh, you're not allowed to say anything.
No, it's good. I'll give you some.
Hey, Tip Top's great too.
Tip Top's great.
We don't like to admit it, but we know what we are, all right? For money.
How'd the sales of Tip Top go after that? Do you know?
Fantastic. Really good.
There was no gluten-free bread back then.
It was called white high fibre. Yeah, which I think they just bullshitted people. But they used to, even the people in the neighbourhood, they would drop off, I think, 4 loaves of bread a day to me. So I'd try eating 4 loaves of bread a day. But yeah, I would eat probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8. It'd be quite nice. Well, you blokes know, you play, so you're working so hard, you're doing so many weights, you're running so hard, you just eat everything. I would honestly pull out a loaf of bread and butter it up and put all the fillings in, and then after a few minutes you go, oh shit, I've got 2 crusts left. You'd eat the whole loaf for lunch, and you'd burn it off that afternoon, because we were afternoon trainers. You guys stagger it different now. Why do you train in the morning? You don't play in the morning.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a good point when you think
They're kind of there all
logically.
day now, though.
Yeah.
Checking in at 7, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, on a main day, we're in 7, probably leave at about 3:34. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You don't. Do you actually do running out on the ground at 2:30 or?
Nah.
In the morning.
No, all in the morning.
I honestly reckon you would have been training harder than us back in the day, because we've got all the nerds behind the scenes that have all the numbers, load management, all that stuff. There was no load management back in the day. They would have just flogged you. So I think you guys would have worked harder, I reckon.
When I was on the board, which was at Hawthorn, which is 15 years ago, did the numbers. I don't know if it was harder or whatever. If we played poorly, you get flogged. But actually, we never really. No, you think I'm making that up? We never really played that poorly at Hawthorn. In my time, I started. My first game was in a semi-final, 1982, against North Melbourne. 1982, and my last game for Hawthorn was lazy 5. I thought it was going to be a breeze from there. Yeah. Played on Bruce Dool the next week. He kicked my ass. 11 years I played with Hawthorn. Our biggest losing streak in that time, 2 games.
Oh my God.
That's the dream, isn't it?
That's the biggest losing streak we had. 2 games. Never lost 3 in a row.
How did that happen?
We were really good, Sam. Yeah.
How? I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, we want the good eye. I think
Give me the
mine's
secret.
15, I think.
Yeah.
I lost my first 10 games.
Did you?
Yeah.
Christ, that'd be hard to keep up with.
I've only won 5.
One for them that relates to them, Derm. The start of your media career, I don't reckon you've spoken about this a lot. So when you, probably towards the end of your playing career, and certainly when you transitioned out, the early work you did to get ready for your 30 years in the media. I remember Ernie Sigley clips.
Yeah, Ernie Sigley,
and even some speech work. Like people just think
did acting lessons too to know how to work the camera.
People think you just put on a suit and started commentating and were gunned straight away. But
And
you hustled at it.
I did, and a lot of the stuff like reading to camera, I felt pretty ordinary at the start. But Ernie Sigley, do you guys know who's? He was
Talk show host, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Media.
Okay.
On the radio.
You know how Logie's meant to be a big deal. Ernie won one. So yeah, and he could talk underwater. He was a brilliant showman. A tiny little fella, barracked for that. He loved the doggies. He's passed away now, Ernie, God love him, but he had some of the greatest stories of all time. I'll tell you one about him and Elvis in a second. But I would go in there and he'd say, "Come on, I like the way you hold yourself. I like the way you talk when you talk in the media. I want to get you to do the sport for me on my show on TV on a Monday morning." I say, "Yeah, all right, okay, that'd be awesome." So I'd go in there and he'd say, "This is how you do it. Practice looking at that," and then he'd teach me how to inflect while you're reading up and down on the end of a sentence, and then he'd sit in front of the camera, lock, stock and barrel, and he'd put a seat right there and he would say, "Sit there and we'll do a few shows." And I would sit there, I reckon, probably 6 months. Every time I finished mine, we did the Monday show, and I would sit there and they would roll through the whole week because it was a variety show. It wasn't a current affairs type show. So they could do Monday to Friday shows all on Monday, and you'd get out of there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So for 6 months, I reckon I just sat there while he did all the other shows and just watched how it, I'm sitting here going, watching how he's reading it and listening to his voice as I can see the teleprompter going up and down and then working out. So I did graft away at it.
Cadence,
Yeah, so I've got to tell you my favourite story about Ernie Sigley. His name was, I'm pretty sure he said it was Ernie William Sigley. And when he was young, he went to live in the UK and try his hand there. And he was only about 19 or 20. And he did Radio Luxembourg. And so there you had the ABC or Radio Luxembourg, and they were the... somebody's trying to bash the door down to get in.
We might be on here. We got your back, Moff.
Yeah.
So we can keep rolling?
Yep.
Shit, I almost knocked that over. So he did Radio Luxembourg, and he had a brief trip to the States. And it was back in the days when you got the release of a single that's it, a 7-inch single.
Yeah.
They're called records. Charlie.
I've got about 150
have you heard?
Yeah, he's into it. He's
You're
a
a record
player.
player. Yeah, you look too lazy. Now just push the button.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ernie took one of them with him to Europe. And it was Elvis's release of Are You Lonesome Tonight? And it's not like the world now where you release it, minutes later it's released everywhere, anywhere in the world. It had like a 2-week date release in Europe, longer than in America. So Ernie's turned up and he started playing it, and it pre-sold about 3 million copies. So it made Elvis quite a bit of money. And Ernie's sitting in there one night, and his name's Ernie Williams on air for Radio Luxembourg. And can we swear a little bit on this?
Oh, it's
Absolutely.
much as you want.
All right, I won't swear much. But
No, go hard.
anyway, he said he's on runner. Yeah, and that's we're playing such and such, and that's Tina Turner. Blah 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 blah. And plays that, and he sits back, and the phone goes, and he picks it up, and the phone says, "Ernie Williams, please," and he goes, Yeah, speaking. And he says, Ernie, it's Elvis. And he's gone, yeah, and I'm the fucking Pope. Who is it? And he goes, no, it's Elvis. And anyway, he convinced him it was Elvis, and he just wanted to thank him for playing his song, his single. And he said, I'd like to catch up when I come for the real release. So he didn't. And he came out, and Ernie went out for dinner with him and said he had one of the greatest nights of his life with the king.
With the king.
With the king, yeah.
Who's one of the coolest people that you've come across in your time?
Give me a category and I'll tell you the coolest.
Someone like Elvis.
Rock stars.
Oh, I used to work at Triple M. I worked there for 10 years before I went to SEN. Some of the rock stars that came in there, Creedence Clearwater Revival, John Fogerty, the lead singer.
Cool.
He was the nicest man I've ever interviewed. And he came in and somebody had worded him up that Eddie McGuire and myself were working together, and Bridget Duclos, and they told him who we were and that, and click, camera went, mics went off and that, and thanks for the interview and that. And then he started asking me about football. He said, what do you do? What do you do, man? You know, this, that. And he said, this, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, he said, hey, I'll get some tickets for you. You want to come and see the show? And I said, yeah, that'd be awesome. So I went and saw John Fogerty and meet me backstage. And saw him backstage. And he said to me, hey, man, I got my people to go and get the not DVD, what was it? He was a VHS in those days. The tape of on you. He said, oh, it's crazy. That's fantastic. He said, I love it. And so I thought, not only did I thought, oh, he's just feigning niceness, you know, and that. He actually sat down and watched the tape and he discussed things with me. Ian Botham's a good friend of mine. Viv Richards. There was one time I got introduced to Viv at the cricket, and he was captain of West Indies at this stage, and so I was in there visiting somebody else, and somebody said, hey, Viv, this is Dermott Brereton, plays Australian rules football, and he went, hey, and his exact words were, hey, I know you, you're a crazy man, play balls. And I went, oh, well, yeah. And we chatted, and he loves sport, Viv. He just watches everything sport. Beefy's told me if you ever want to speak to him, you call a pub in, I think it's Antigua somewhere. Anyway, he's just always in there. No, it's the golf club. There's a local golf club where Viv just sits at the bar there most days watching sport and that. But he came out and we chatted all the way about sport and life. And then we got to the bus. And so the bus basically left, you know, out the front of, what would it be, Gate 4 or whatever at MCG. They used to be able to drive right in there, and then the bus would go out, around, and just take them 400 metres up the hill to the old Hilton Hotel, which is now the Pullman. And the Viv, he said, hey, man, you're team bus. I'm sorry, you can't come on the bus. And I went, no, that's cool, mate. He says, you coming back to the hotel? And I went, yeah, that'd be awesome. Have a drink with her, yeah. And he goes, yeah. No, fuck it, I'll walk with you. So, and he walked with me. Yeah, so I just thought, here is the most famous cricketer in the world at that moment. And he just said, yeah, the team knows that I'm not disrespecting them. Met somebody who's interesting, I'll walk up there. It's only going to be 10 minutes. So it was a pretty cool thing. And there was somebody rang me once and said, hey, Derm, you know Viv, don't you? And I went, yep. And I said, he's walked into a party down here in Port Melbourne. He doesn't know anyone, but he's mentioned you. And I went, yeah. And I was only living around the corner at the time in Albert Park. I said, what do you reckon? Do you want to come down and keep him company and maybe introduce him to a few people? He's standing around like a shag on the rocket. Anyway, this party was humming, and I've walked in, and he's at the other side of the room, this lounge room of somebody's house, and there would have been 60 people. It was shoulder to shoulder. And he's looked up and gone, "Hey, brother!" And he's walked at me, and the crowd parted, and he's come over and given me a hug, and that was one of the highlights of my life. You would felt like the king.
I say to these boys, there's
so
some
good.
people, and I like these big boys playing like this, more presence than Santa for Viv. You know what I mean? He was only a little man, but he may as well have been
Powerful, yeah. Played golf with him a few times. Played golf with prime ministers. Played with Greg Norman. Played once.
hello.
Yeah, played with what's his name? I forget. Bloody some of those guys.
Good
famous,
So I was playing with Bobby once, Bobby Hawke, because when you play in grand finals, the Prime Minister comes in and and after 3 or 4, he tends to get on first name basis. So yeah, the PM had come in, Bobby Hawke, and
Sculler beer. He's a good
Sculler,
sculler.
yeah, apparently so, yeah. And he played golf with him. He and I sat in the cart and drove around, one little cart following behind with a couple of security detail in it.
Fair enough.
It's fair to say the PM was very good at awarding gimmies, self-gimmies. Yeah. I think I'm good with that one, Dermott. And I go, oh, jeez, I would have liked to see it
2 metres
in the
up
back
the
of
hole,
the back of the cup, Mr. Prime Minister. But yeah, Wayne Riley said to him once, we were playing another time, and Wayne won the Australian Open. He's a great mate of mine. He won it in 1990 or 91, I think. And we were playing up at Twin Waters.
Yeah.
And Bobby was a cribber. He'd put the ball down. Yeah, so he'd walk up to the ball and put his marker down, and as he's putting the marker down, he'd knock the ball forward a bit and put it down and pick it up. And he'd mark the ball and put it down about 3 inches ahead of it and go, "No, that's not right." And he'd mark it again and do the same.
Yeah, another 6
And
inches.
Wayne Riley said to him, he said it to the Prime Minister, he said, "Hey, Bob, you only need to mark that 2 more times and you won't have to putt."
That's good. Good delivery.
Yeah.
Then we've a couple of footy ones we've got to get to, or we'll have our fans burning the studio down.
Yeah.
89 on it, you would have spoken about it, thousands of sportos. But when you look back at that vision now of you getting hit at the first bounce, jumper full of busted ribs, staying on, spewing, taking a contested mark a couple of minutes later, do you look back and say, how did I do that? And how dangerous it was knowing what Petrarca and that have been through now?
Yeah, you do at the time, but you blokes don't get the chance to do that now.
No.
You just are not allowed to test
We
yourself.
get pulled off straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's certain times where you would probably, I reckon you would say, no, I want the opportunity to keep going now. So, no, I get the litigious nature of it. Yeah, it is dangerous. And I look back at it now. I mean, I stubbed my toe now and I'm like out of action for 3 weeks. You know? But when you're 25, your whole life, your whole consciousness of being a young man is to play football, AFL, VFL level. And above that, you want to play in the best team. And above that, you want to make it to a grand final. And above that, you want to win a grand final. So I've been there in 89. I have been there 3 times already. So I know how awesome the day is. So when it happened, I went, that's it, I'm dead, I'm gone. Day's over. I legitimately know I am done and dusted. And I've got, there are no qualms. No one will be able to say,
You squibbed it.
yeah, you didn't give everything. I lasted 2 seconds. But it was worth it. It was worth it. So I went in at halftime and urinated blood and said to the doctor, "What's this?" And he said, "Your kidneys, they've got a rupture in them." So, well, how you feeling? I said, "Well, not great, but I reckon I can keep going." And he said, "All right, well, just drink a lot of water and don't tell anyone that you've peed blood." So that was the doctor's advice in 1988. Now, Yeah, but the doctors, some of them are actually ex-players.
Yeah.
You know, so they knew.
Understand it.
Yeah, they understand the moment. They knew. And to be totally honest, there are certain players, even within our team back in those days, they would, if they'd seen that, they'd have gone, you've had about enough. You know, there's certain players that they know could take sort of punishment. Like Dipper, you fucking run over him with a tractor and you just go, hey, you're all right, keep going, keep going. And there are other players who get a sniffle and you go, that might be enough. Yeah. So you do know your targets as well. So I looked at the boy Rochelle last weekend and I went, oh, Christ, I know how you're feeling, son. And I said on the coverage, I said, don't sneeze, mate. In the next couple of days, don't sneeze. That's the worst thing when you sneeze and you've got broken ribs. Yeah.
On that, bit of true or false. So my mail is that day they said, you can celebrate with the boys, but you're not to have a beer till midnight.
No, you're not allowed to have a beer today.
Right.
You're not allowed to have a drink today. You're
So
not allowed to drink today.
And you waited till?
Midnight.
And here's what true or false. Did you do a nightclub appearance that night?
Yes.
For a few extra bucks out in Croydon or somewhere?
I used to do them for a few bob, but no, I did that one for free. Because my beautiful mate, he owned nightclubs and we lived together. Later on, he's hilarious. I had so much fun together. And he said, you got to promise me if you win, you'll come out. And I went, yeah, all right, I will. So, yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Out at Croydon area.
Lacerated liver and 12 busted ribs.
Let alone after a granny.
I got back at about 1 a.m. and it was like, you've been here all night? And I went, yeah, no, I haven't noticed yet because the whole place is jumping for so long. Yeah.
Other one I wanted to throw at you was, and these boys deal with it a bit with this environment we're in now, but you were very close to Quarters and Eddie in your playing days, and they would have seen some things, those boys. You let them report on a few. I think you gave Ed the exclusive on the boots, didn't you? Like every now and then it was like, be here at this time.
Yeah.
But that's a dynamic that wouldn't happen now.
No, it wouldn't.
The best reporters in the land living with the star player.
We lived in each other's pockets, you know. There were lads about town and it's a little bit gruff, but I'll tell you how I first met Eddie. I'm playing for Victoria. 20 years of age, state of origin, we've won, and we go back to the hotel in Adelaide, Hilton Hotel. Yeah. So it's not far. So game finishes like 10, 15 or so. So we're back there by about 11. 11:30, because we haven't won there, Victoria hasn't won there for about 3 years in a row. They put everything, absolutely everything on, anything you wanted. So there's drinks flying around and I'm standing there I used to drink Pernod and Coke or Ouzo and Coke or a bourbon and Coke. I didn't drink beer until, only a couple of years ago. There's a reason for that too. But and I'm standing there with a bourbon and Coke going sip. And our boys, there's 4 blokes in chairs doing the old boat race, skull on their head. And I'm watching TD and Dougie Hawkins and all these blokes playing boat races. And I'm going, and this young fella who I'd known as a reporter settled up next to him. He said, how you going, Derm? And I went, hey, mate, you're Eddie, aren't you? And he went, yep. He said, yeah. I said, how's your night going? He went, yeah, good. And I went, I don't know about you, Ed, but I don't like watching blokes do boat races. I like girls. And he said, me too. And so we went into town. We went to a nightclub.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then came back and they was all, half of them were passed out in corners. Not that, yeah, well. So that's the first time I met Eddie in the first conversation we had. So we were mates all the way through, still are. But he would, I got reported 17 times and it got to the stage where the lift doors had opened at the tribunal and Eddie had asked me a question. Dermy, you happy with the
Verdict?
And I'd say, oh yeah, I think we got a fair trial, Ed. 1 week. Yeah, I would love to be playing this week, but yeah. And then other people start asking me questions, and so somebody would ask a question, and I'd say, "What's that, Ed?" "Yep, okay, right, okay." And I'd answer Eddie to all of them. It got to the stage where the lift doors had opened. Eddie wouldn't even be there. They say, "Derm, got to be disappointed with the 4-week suspension." And I go, "Eddie, it was really disappointing." He wouldn't have he wasn't even there in the end. So yeah, we had a bit of fun with that.
That's great. We can take note from that. Help you out, Butts.
Yeah, help out your mate.
Might sound like
Yeah,
Tommy
you got
Morris
to
or
throw him
he's
in.
clear.
Yeah.
I've actually got a bar story with you too. I'll be amazed if you remember this, but it was important to me. And this goes to show the kind of bloke you are, right?
Yeah.
So 2004, I'm a skinny kid that's gone over to play in the Sanford Port Adelaide Magpies.
Big name.
Chasing
Yeah.
my footy dream.
Yeah.
And I'm at Boutique Nike. I'm feeling pretty good.
The
See?
Boutique?
I'm a Boutique. You're in a black shirt. I'm in a black shirt. I was injured, so I was back seeing a couple of mates on a Friday night on the piss in the winter. We're having a bourbon. You were having a bourbon.
Yeah.
And we were having a bit of a chat. And yapping the footy, and people would have been chewing your ear off about footy, and I could tell you didn't really engage. And you said, "Who do you play for, son?" I said, "Port Adelaide Magpies." And then you had a bit of respect. You said, "You're fair dinkum." And I said, "Yeah, I'm having some trouble. I kicked 4 behinds last week because I copy your goal kicking a bit. You're my hero, and I swing the ball round." And you said, "We'll fucking fix that. Get a couple of bourbons." We sculled the bourbons, and then you got to have a natural drop, son. And we started drop kicking bourbons in the back bar, and you fixed it. You said you got to have soft hands. You can't be waving
soft
it
hands,
late.
Yeah, soft hands. You strangle the. I do
I
remember
was
that.
yeah.
You
Tip the
strangle
ice
the
out.
footy. You strangle it. Puts tension in your arms. The great kicks just caressed the ball and just dropped it softly. You should learn that too.
I'm trying. I'm fucking trying.
I was commentating the other night when you're going around the corner, and your first one around the corner was from about 40.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, this is too far out. Oh, don't do it. Oh, no, Sam, don't. Oh, he's going around the corner.
He's doing it.
No, this is good. Shit, look, he's kicked the cover off it. You missed, but geez, you got some good hoof into it, didn't you?
It didn't miss. It went in.
The very first one.
No, I haven't missed.
He hasn't missed a
I
snap.
haven't missed a snap. So we're keeping it going.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you
You're
got
right,
the
he
first
bangs
one?
them from 40.
Well, yeah. No, it was on commentary side.
Yeah.
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 Shit, how's my memory going?
I want to know, dude, do you actually remember that?
I do remember that. I do
brilliant,
remember.
mate. Emptied the ice.
I remember talking about because the amount of time people come up to you and start talking and
footy
say,
and whatnot, yeah.
"Oh yeah, I'm playing out for Vermont. I'm playing at Baxter. I'm playing for Sorrento. And what do you think?" And you go, "Oh yeah, good luck, mate. Yeah, but you want to shout the dreams." But when they say Port Adelaide, or when they say somewhere else, you go, "Right, this bloke's fair dinkum, and he's just a hair's breadth off doing it." Yeah.
You've just made
What a man.
Nick Butler's life complete.
He fixed my kicking. There's a couple of other things he couldn't fix, but we had a go. The other one, Derm, I wanted to throw at you, and fuck, we could speak for another 2 hours, but we've got to let you go. These boys are both courted a bit of controversy in their careers. He laid on the ball and got death threats
Saw that.
in Adelaide.
That was hilarious.
This man, you probably haven't seen it.
And then you went back and replayed it for us while you're doing a lap.
He did.
Yeah, I
You
didn't.
silly prick.
Yeah, what an idiot.
And this fella, I don't know if this, he incited a riot with the Northern Bull Ants by potting him during the week and saying how shit they were. And he was having a game in the twos to get fit, and they near ripped his head off. He had to fight 10 of them. And made me think about you, crazy man, when you've decided to bowl through the Bombers huddle at 3/4 time. What was that? Just unfathomable now. Can you imagine if someone did, if bloody Patrick Cripps did that?
You could get away with a bit back then. There was no camera phones and that. Yeah. That was the same era when I rode my motorbike into town and there was a big queue outside the nightclub, outside, what was it?
Metro.
called? The Metro. It started to rain. I thought, oh, shit, I'm not leaving this Harley out in the street. So I rode it into the nightclub. Kicked the stand down. The big Maori bouncers gone, And I've thrown him the keys and disappeared. He caught him and he turned his head and I'm pissed off. That bike stayed there for about 3 weeks. People thought it was an auction item or a door prize. What was I thinking? Piggy Dunstall. He was on 99 goals, took a mark, turned away from the umpires as he fell. And Billy Duckworth, good bloke, Bill, nasty prick on the field, but good bloke, went to knee him in the head. So I grabbed Bill, he grabbed me. He got in pretty close. I pushed at him, he pushed at me. And he got in close and I thought he's going to try and headbutt me here. So I grabbed him and pulled him in and kissed him. And he started laughing. And so with that, we went to full forward. Jason got 15 metres or whatever it was in those days. He kicked a goal and we've got each other like that. And I might have sort of jumper punched him.
Maybe,
possibly. We don't know though.
And Billy made out that I'd slugged him in the head. It sort of just recoiled and the umpire said, no score. So I've gone, and that umpire I knew didn't like me. So I swore at him as much as I could. And he said, what did you say? Did you just say that? And I went, no, I didn't just call you at such and such. You'd give them 2 goes in those days and they'd let you get off with, I retract that, I apologise. And there's no report. So I gave it to him. No, but he made me so wild. And truly, just my best mate, Chris Whitman, number 10, was next to me. Piggy Dunstall had run off. He was pissed at us and he ran, we ran towards our huddle. Alan Joyce was the coach. And I kid you not, I didn't veer out. They were just in the way. And Whitty started veering out and I thought, nah, this is fucking Essendon. And so picked up a bit of pace, started cranking through a few and saw Sheedy, so I knew I was halfway. And then there was a few on the other side. Roger, Dean Wallace, Terry and that. And it comes out, bang, they hit me on the head and that. And I get through the other side. I only bumped into blokes, I didn't punch anyway. I get through the other side and Whitty joins back up again. And we go into the coach. And I was always a pretty, although I would do weird shit like that, I was always respectful of the coach. Yeah. Probably only 3 or 4 times in my career did I answer back the coach. And this coach was Alan Joyce, who was the caretaker coach that year. Good bloke, Joycey. Some of, like Jason and some of the boys didn't like him much as a coach. I thought he was what we needed that year. His football acumen wasn't through the roof, but he had the best team in the comp, so all he needed to do was soup him up a bit. And I got there and he's poked me in the chest. So I've just given away Piggy's 100th. I've just been punched in the head half a dozen times. He's poked me in the chest and said, give me one reason why I don't send you to the bench. And it was a really close game. And I was actually playing pretty good. And I said, because I'm your best fucking player and it's too close. And he looked at me and went, Whitty, were you in on that? And I've gone, fuck, I might be through this one. So I disappeared in there and the other umpires gave me, took a couple of grabs, got 2 free kicks from the other umpires, kicked a couple, gave a couple away and game over. Yeah, worked out beautifully.
Good stories. Only 30-odd years ago.
Not that long, eh?
You guys can't do anything like that, can you?
No, we can't do anything.
Do you long for a bit of that, you too?
Oh, it'd be good fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be good. You get fined too much. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, so Toby does a bit. Yeah, he sort of lands himself in
last of the Mohican.
Fines.
Yeah, even little cheeky stuff you get fined for a little whack there.
Yeah.
So did you get death threats for lying on the ball?
Maybe a couple, yeah.
Fair dinkum. Yeah,
over the internet though, so there's no.
Yeah. I used to get them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What for?
Being me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Pen letters.
Yeah, how'd you get it back then?
Oh, yeah.
Face to face?
Oh, yeah. And they'd there'd be a picture of you on the back page, and they'd cut it out, and then in red ink they'd cut your throat. Send the stuff like that to you, and I'm thinking, hey, if you're going to give me warning, you ain't going to do it. So, you feel aggrieved at the time, saying, "You dogs, how weak are you?" Anyway,
I would have been shit right. I would have been pulling them. There's the job.
Yeah. So, but no, they send some nasty ones. Yeah.
Whenever we play against the Hawks, the vision always comes up with the Blues of you guys when you're having fights.
They used to fight.
Yeah, do you get fired up watching that when you see it now? Do you get fizzed up and ready to go?
I love the Essendon blokes. I muck around saying, yeah, we hate them, and we did. We genuinely did. Mm-hmm. But it's like not that we're anything of this nature, but when you see, you're probably too young again. Muhammad Ali. He had an awesome ongoing battle with Joe Frazier, brought out the best in him. And so at the time they were into each other with verbals. They fought for title after title, but they brought out the best in us. Essendon brought out the best in us. We brought out the best in Essendon. So in those days, you'd play against the Brisbane Bears had just come in. Somebody kicked the ball to you, and you get the ball and you just immediately go, right, who am I giving it to? That's in free play. You go, right, look up, look up, look up. You'd play against another team who were pretty good, a Collingwood, a Melbourne or something like that. You get the ball and you go, right, where's the tacklers? Got rid of them. Right, who do I give it to? You play against Essendon and seriously you would go, won the ball, cover up. Shit, where are they coming from? You really would. They were just, they're a little bit like gangling. Billy stomped my hand once and twirled and compound fractured the bone through there. Beautiful. So, and that was completely deliberate. And,
nasty.
I would have done the same to him if I could have. Yeah. So you would go to State of Origin again. I'd rock up to the jump, Adelaide, Perth, whatever, and say, "Oh, hello, Victorian team player Brereton," and they'd go, "Yes, here you go, Mr. Brereton." And we used to have to share in those days. Okay, you're sharing with a Mr. Danaher, and I'd go, "No, find me another one, please." And they'd say, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" Yeah. I said, "No, somebody else, please. Somebody, not Essendon." Yeah, we would, Dipper and I, Airsy, we wouldn't even room with the Essendon blokes. Good blokes, ripping blokes, but you knew they were going to kick your head in within a couple of weeks, and you had to kick their head in. You just didn't want. But they used to say that about the Second World War pilots. Don't get to know your wingman too well because he's going to get shot down any minute. You didn't want to get on well with them. You'd play in a State of Origin team and you'd do everything you could to win with them, but you didn't want to know them too good because you were going to punch them in the head sooner or later and they were going to do the same to you. So, yeah, they were brutal. They were brutal. There was one time you would have been an Essendon man. You'd have heard of the great big Roger Merritt. He was scary. He was genuinely scary. So we're playing against Essendon one day at Waverley, and it's the first game. Keane, I think his name was Gavin Keane, number 35. He came on. It's 15 minutes into the last quarter, and you guys, Essendon, are up by 6 goals. We cannot win. I've found myself up the ground, around the centre, chasing the ball out. It's gone back over my head. I'm about to go in. Timmy Watson wins it. He's running towards me, Essendon's direction. The first game is running along like a sidecar, 3 metres off to his side, ready to do the Joe the Goose, continue play, draw me on the... We can't win. And I'm starting to pick up speed, going straight at Timmy. And Timmy's, you can see him, eyes going, and Keane's just running along going, yes. First game. And I just went, no, we're 6 down. Somebody's got to pay. So I just veered off and cleaned out this poor kid. And anyway, he got stretchered off. The ball went Essendon's way, kick a goal. And so I go to centre forward. Play stopped when he was being chaired off or stretched. I can't remember accurately, but he was KO'd. And that was totally legal in those days because he was within 5. But that was the brutal rules of it, wasn't it?
As long as you didn't lift your elbow, you
were no, it was perfectly executed for the day. Somewhat, I even then looked back and thought it was somewhat of a loophole in their rules. And I'm watching him get carted off. Play stopped. Yeah, play had to have stopped because he would have been on the stretcher. And the Essendon runner runs out to centre half forward. And I'm centre half forward for Hawthorn. And I think I've got Paul Hamilton on me. And I'm looking 50 metres over the other line through the centre. And the Essendon runner runs to Roger Merritt. And Roger's facing centre half forward, facing to me on the other side. And Roger leans down because he was big, listening. And then when the runner's finished talking to him like that, Roger goes and just stares at me. And then he starts running around the square. And Hamilton starts running that way around the square, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm probably going to get one here. I'm probably not going to win this one. I've had a pretty good run. And Roger got down to me and he's chested into me and he's just like in a guttural voice just gone, "What you do that for to the first gamer?" And I went, "Wrong jumper, Rog. Just in the wrong jumper." By now there's about 5 to 10 minutes left in the game. And Roger looks at me and goes, "You stay neat and tidy. And so will I." And I went, "You got a deal. You got a deal. We're on." Yeah, so it was the only time I've ever gone, "Oh, shit." They're actually hunting me now. But it really did get nasty. They were pretty nasty. Yeah. And we were nasty in return. Yeah.
Mate, they're amazing stories. We've had you an hour, Derm, so we better let you go. But I was going to ask you about the one, if we can sneak it in, the Reader's Digest version of the live cross you did for Eddie and the boys at the opening of Crown, where you've punched a bloke on the TV. Well, you didn't punch him, but he was in your grill and you said, "Enough of this."
No, I got him with the stub of the hand.
On TV.
On TV. So I got him with the stub of the hand.
You warned him 3 times.
I did. Yeah. So
That's fair.
Yeah. So much. But it started off, so we go to air at 9:30, the old footy show. And so Eddie was meant to come on. "Hello, it's been a big week in football. Welcome, everybody. Points 1, 2, 3. And welcome to Shane Crawford. Welcome to Craig Kelly. And welcome to Steve Silvani. And this is Sam Newman." Blah, blah, blah. 7, 8 minutes gone. All right, let's cross out to the Crown Casino where Derm's on site and talking about a new bar opening, a sports bar, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I've seen the start of the footy show and this bloke starts hooking into me off camera. And so we're not even on yet, but I've got to stand in front of it in case something happens and they've got to come to me.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'll go, yeah, right. Can give it a break, mate. That's a bit heated. So he's pretty nasty, whatever. And then he's into 2 minutes later, "Why didn't they send someone good, not a shit kicker like you?" Blah blah blah. And I'm going, shit myself. Yeah. Mate, just ease up. And anyway, Eddie's got his claws into a topic, so I'm standing in front of the camera for 25 minutes before they cross. And he's gone a third time. And I said, "Listen, mate, if you go again, I'll get you fucking bounced. I will get you out." And he's gone, "Oh, mate, see, I'm sorry, Derm. I was just having a bit of fun. My mate and I, he's bet me that I couldn't get you upset, whatever, blah, blah, blah." And I went, "Yeah, good one, boys. You got me." All right. And he's going, "Yeah, no, we'll be good when it comes on." And I went, "Oh, thanks, guys." And then there was a couple of light moments. And then they cross out to me and go, "Derm's out," and he starts jumping on me. And I go, "Oh, you." He's dudded me a 4th time after making out. he's not a bad bloke and it was all a joke. So I gave him a push and he's bounced back again, and in the end, just with the stub man, I'm going, bang!
In the cross.
Got rid of him. I'd forget about that stuff. Yeah, so...
Totally fair, I reckon.
It's all fair, live TV.
Yeah,
absolutely. Amazing, dude. Thanks for dropping by. I love the stories. These kids, they've got no attention span anymore, and they loved all the stories as well, mate. And we love having you still broadcasting the footy, and there's a bit of YouTubing to do for the young kids, I reckon.
Yeah,
Amazing
well,
stories, mate.
if I ever set up my own YouTube, what do you call it?
Podcast?
What's this called? Podcast. It goes on YouTube.
Yes, it does. Yeah, you're right.
I keep getting asked by people to do one with them, but I say, no. If I do, you three can be guests.
Yes.
We love that.
Thank
We'd
you.
love that.
Beautiful, dude. Mate, thank you so much. We're going to rip into Dermott's 101 football
give that a
stories,
plug.
which has you getting a hanger taken on you by a buxom blonde. It's a sign of the times.
You know what that book is called now? Kindling.
We read a few passages, mate. It's very colourful. Amazing, mate. Thanks again.
Cheers, boys.
A couple of gifts for you.
Yeah, before you go, a couple of gifts. You got 200 plus hat here.
Oh, that's
The best free stuff you'll ever get.
And a shirt here, which it says 43 SLG, which means 43 State League games, which is about Nick Butler.
Would you
in
help
his-
me get to after fixing
Well
the kick? I played another 20 before I become a journalist.
So that's all yours.
I might have got more in reserves than you. I reckon I might have played 40-something reserves. I was 15.
All right, I'm a bit blown away by that. Look, he's 5-time, 5-night, more presence than Santa. I didn't know Derm was going to be that good.
Mate, that was
Thoughts?
incredible. That was absolutely incredible, wasn't it? The aura. That's
Oh my
positive
God.
aura,
Yeah.
10,000.
I'm blown away. That was like, we could have sat and chatted for hours.
He has a good story on a good story. And like Viv Richards at parties and Bob Hawke cheating in golf. Jesus. But the most important one was that he spoke about the bourbon goal kicking. Yeah,
and he confirmed he remembers it.
He remembered.
I don't think he did. But
I don't
happened.
think so. He was too polite not to say. I really wanted him to just be like, nah, I got no idea, but he couldn't do it. So kudos to him.
So we've made a decision because Derm was so good. And to be honest, we might have to get him on again because there was about 5 or 6 other things we could have got from him. And he just gives so much.
So much.
How
So
good were
much.
his accents? I think Sensei Mazda was about to get a run. At one stage, I said, look, we've got a character called Sensei Mazda. Would you like to have a go, Derm? But we're not going to cut up Derm, okay? Derm's going to pretty much go to air in his entirety. It's going to be a Dermott Brereton
Special.
5-time, 5-night Hall of Fame special.
Yep.
And then we're going to do the rest of the episode starting soon.